Singapore launches 6 new vaccinated travel lanes next month, including for Thailand and Cambodia. A new COVID-19 variant found in South Africa is heavily mutated and causing concerns. And Singapore's African lions will be back on display from tomorrow after making a full recovery from the coronavirus. Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Olivia Quay. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. Singapore announcing today that the vaccinated travel lane scheme will be extended to 6 more countries, including Thailand. Vaccinated travellers departing from there may enter Singapore quarantine-free from December 14th, while those from Cambodia, Fiji, Maldives, Sri Lanka and Turkey may do so from December 16th. By then, all 6 countries will have reopened their borders to travellers from Singapore. This extension means Singapore now has 27 VTLs. But even as Singapore reopens with safeguards to more countries, the COVID-19 situation around the world is evolving. The Health Ministry announcing today that travellers from 6 European countries will have to serve a 10-day stay-home notice from December 1st. The countries, Austria, Belgium, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Liechtenstein and Slovakia are all seeing a sharp rise in infections. At the same time, a new COVID-19 variant is also becoming more concerning. We'll have more on that in a moment, but first, here's Transport Minister S. Iswaran on Singapore's reopening strategy.
Even as we continue to reopen our borders to secure Singapore's position as a business and aviation hub, we will closely monitor the global public health situation, especially for the emergence of any new variants of concern, and impose additional safeguards as necessary. This is integral to our careful and calibrated approach to reopening our borders and tightening our safeguards when warranted by the latest public health risk assessment. I would also urge that all Singaporeans and residents to closely track the situation in the countries they are visiting, to be well informed and updated on their latest public health and border measures, and to plan well ahead for contingencies.
As at the end of yesterday, just over 37,000 travellers have entered Singapore via the VTL scheme. Most are short-term visitors or long-term pass holders, and about 14,700 are returning Singapore citizens and PRs. Plus, over 79,300 travellers have applied for vaccinated travel passes between September the 8th and January 27th, 2022. So, the discovery of a new heavily mutated COVID-19 variant in South Africa has raised concerns here. While there are currently no reported cases of it in Singapore, to reduce the risks of it spreading here, from this Sunday, November the 28th, Singapore will be restricting travel from these 7 African nations. It means all long-term pass holders and short-term visitors from these countries will not be allowed entry into or transit through Singapore. Returning citizens and PRs will be subject to a 10-day stay-home notice at a dedicated facility. But as Singapore opens more VTLs, journalist Kok Yufeng shares more on how the new variant will affect those plans.
And we're just still studying, how severe this new variant is and also how infectious it is. So he said, really there needs to be time for the authorities to study the detailed characteristics of the virus, and to sort of study how much of an impact it will have on travel. So at the moment, I think he said, he doesn't really want to draw any conclusions into how it will impact the VTLs as well as air travel going forward. I think what he noted was out of the 7 countries, African countries that have now had additional restrictions placed on them starting from tomorrow at 11:59, he did say that there's only one country with a direct air link to Singapore, and that is South Africa. And there's only one flight from the country to Singapore every day, with most of the passengers on board being transit passengers. I think he said also that the volumes are quite low, so it's about 10 passengers in a day. So, I think in his view, that the impact might be quite limited for now.
The new COVID-19 variant causing concern as well. around the globe and sending stock markets tumbling. Now, the variant has 32 mutations in its spike protein, about double the number associated with the Delta variant. The World Health Organization will hold an emergency meeting later today, and if the variant is determined to be of special interest or concern, it will get a Greek alphabet as its name. Although first detected in South Africa, the variant has also been found in Botswana and Hong Kong, and there are concerns about how it spreads. What we know about the cases in Hong Kong: the new variant was brought in by a male traveller from South Africa on November the 11th and tested positive while under quarantine in a hotel. He then allegedly spread the virus to another man who was staying in a neighbouring room at the same hotel. The first patient was found to have worn a reusable mask with an air valve, which contributed to the spread of the virus through airborne transmission. For now, no further related infections have been detected in Hong Kong. But how will this affect Hong Kong's reopening, particularly with mainland China? Authorities saying that a meeting in Shenzhen yesterday has moved both sides closer to partially reopening the border. Hong Kong has followed Beijing's lead to implement some of the world's strictest travel restrictions, hoping that would convince China to allow some cross-border movement. Back home, 2 more hawker centres have opened to groups of up to 5 vaccinated people to eat together. They are the hawker centres at Block 137, Tampines Street 11 and Taman Jurong Food Centre. Another 19 are slated to do the same by next Monday. Well, 10 new coffee shops and canteens also allowed to seat groups of 5. On the list are Chuan Ki F&B, Hunger House, Kofu at 662D Pongal Central, Brunner's Coffee Shop and Tong Kien Eating House in Teban Gardens. And here are the other 5 coffee shops. To qualify to have groups of 5 diners, these places must control access to their premises by cordoning off areas and having dedicated entry points. At the entry points, they must check the vaccination status of all patrons and differentiate those who are fully vaccinated and dining in. In other news, the Singapore Zoo's African lions will be back on display from tomorrow after making a full recovery from Covid-19. The isolation order was lifted earlier this week as they no longer showed any symptoms. Zookeepers who were infected have also recovered and are back at work. But the Asiatic lions, at the night safari remain under quarantine as they're still showing mild symptoms. If you're heading out this weekend, do take note of road closures at both Suntec and Singapore Expo due to events being held at these 2 locations. And SBS says these will affect 7 of its bus services. Services 70M, 111, 133, 162M and 502 will skip the bus stop along Temasek Boulevard, while buses 24 and 38 will skip the bus stop along Upper Changi Road East in front of Expo Halls 1, 2 and 3. Singapore badminton player Loh Kian Yew, ranked 26th in the world, will compete in the Indonesia Open quarterfinals later today after a surprise win over world number 1 Kento Momota yesterday. Take a look.
He's missed it. I can't believe it. Momota has missed the net kill, and Loh Kian Yew was booked his place in the quarter-final, beating the 2-time former champion.
Kian Yew there in red, becoming the first Singaporean to reach a Super 1000 quarterfinal since 2018. Well, these Super 1000 events are a level below the top-tier World Tour finals. With more is sports correspondent David Lee. Welcome back to The Big Story, David. So Momota is the world number 1, of course. Kian Yew is ranked 26th. By ranking alone, yesterday's result is rather fantastic, but help us further understand the significance of Kian Yew's win and the possible impact it has on his career.
Right. Hi, Olivia. So in the world of men's badminton now, the 2 top dogs are world number 1 Kento Momota and world number 2 Victor Axelsen. And everyone is trying to play catch up. So Momota is the reigning world champion, while Axelsen is the new Olympic champion. So they are kind of like Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal in their prime, if you will. Everyone wants to beat them, but obviously not everybody can. So beating Momota is definitely a milestone for Kian Yu because it confirms he belongs among badminton's elite. And this result is not a fluke when you consider who he has beaten in the last 6 weeks. They include 3 top 10 players and another 3 in the top 20. And Kian Yu just has this special quality when he walks out on court that few players have. It's not exactly an aura or swagger like Lin Dan used to have. You know when you see a lower ranked player, when he steps out against a top player, you can tell from the body language, this fella is going to lose. But that's different with Kian Yu. When he goes out to play, you always feel he has a chance to win, regardless of who he's up against. He's positive, he's bouncing about, light on his feet. And I don't think that can be coached. That comes from within. So before the Olympics, he told me his goal was to become the first Singaporean to win an Olympic badminton medal. Many laughed when the story came out at the time because who is he when nobody has done it before? I just hope that those who were laughing then are now glued to their screens watching this champion play, because this series of good results will only serve to reinforce his belief. So another bigger picture significance of Kian Yu and of course Yeo Jia Min's achievements lately are that it will help raise the profile of Singapore badminton, and hopefully this will lead to a virtuous cycle where more aspiring players will come forward to form a bigger talent pool for future generations of national players.
Well said. Fingers crossed for that scenario to happen in the near future. But let's go back to Kian Yu. So, you know, you mentioned his latest results and the fact that he has beaten several top players. And this is all happening after the Olympics. Do you think that Tokyo 2020 was a turning point for him?
Right, so I think the Tokyo Olympics came a bit too soon for him, to be honest, and the pandemic took the wind out of his sails. He was on an upward trajectory in 2019, beating Lin Dan and making the last 16 of the World Championships that year. But the pandemic disrupted training and competition schedules, and I don't think he had enough high-quality preparations in Singapore given the restrictions going into Tokyo. And he narrowly lost to Indonesia's world number 7, Jonathan Christie, and missed out on knockout rounds there. After the Olympics, however, he went straight into a 1-month training stint with Victor Axelsen in Dubai, where he was also able to spar with up-and-coming players like India's world number 19, Lakshya Sen. So in a way, yes, I think Tokyo 2020 whet his appetite, and the stint with Axelsen definitely raised his levels because we can all see his fitness and defensive game have improved vastly.
Right. Well, don't forget, of course, you know, Kian Yu, he won the Hilo Open earlier this month, and he is only 24 years old. So based on his achievements, David, and what you know about, you know, the careers of top badminton players, is Kian Yu at his peak, or is he more like on his way to reaching that?
Right. For sure, his best is yet to come. The aim must be to achieve something big at Paris 2024. But what I can't say for sure is how long his prime years will be. There are a few factors affecting this. You know, many of the top players have complained about the punishing schedule of the World Tour currently, not in a whiny way, because I'm sure in this pandemic era, they would rather have competition and prize money to play for than nothing. But the reality is, if competitions are going to be held back-to-back in a bubble because of the pandemic, the top players will likely suffer. And they have to play to maintain their world rankings, which are important for competition seeding and simply to make a living. Take Momota, for example. He played in the Indonesia Masters final on Sunday. That's 5 straight matches in a tournament from the round of 32. And then he has to play the Indonesia Open first round on a Tuesday. Take nothing away from Kian Yu because he also had a long schedule, but by Kian Yu's own admission, Momota was probably at 60%, while Kian Yu was at 80%. So whether or not such exertions will have an impact on a player's condition in the long term, only time will tell. Another thing is, if you were breathless just watching their match, imagine what is it like for the players. You know, Kian Yu has improved and is able to match the world's best players because his defense has improved. But at the same time, playing a patient game against the top level players requires an extraordinary amount of fitness and focus. I'm not sure how long a player can keep up this back and forth, in this 6.7 meter by 5.2 meter box. It's like making multiple shuttle runs in 1 hour and pivoting in all directions while having to fling your body on the concrete floor. It is punishing. So, you know, while it's great to see Kian Yu and Jia Min do so well in 2021, it is very, very important for the association and the Singapore Sport Institute to closely monitor and manage their recovery moving towards the Paris Olympics in 2024, when hopefully we can talk again about something as magical.
Well, thanks so much, David. You certainly painted a very vivid picture of our players and the sport of badminton itself. David Lee there, sports correspondent for the Straits Times. Well, those are our top stories for today. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. See you soon on The Big Story. Take care.